And what they're claiming is 1 in 5 ICE arrests are Latinos on the street with no criminal past or removal order. Okay, that is 20% of their arrests so far. So this was 3 days ago. ICE sent 3 U.S. citizen children, including boy with cancer, to Honduras with their deported moms. All right, an immigration group filed a lawsuit on behalf of 2 families saying they were not given access to legal counsel before 2 mothers and their children were sent to Central America. All right. Despite being American citizens, 3 children, a 4-year-old boy with stage 4 kidney cancer, his 7-year-old sister, and a 2-year-old girl were swept up along with their families by immigration authorities in Louisiana and quickly sent to Honduras, according to a lawsuit filed on behalf of the families. Okay. Romeo, as the now 5-year-old who is identified in the lawsuit, was diagnosed with a rare aggressive form of kidney cancer at age 2. So he was getting treatment in the U.S. The failure to allow his mother to arrange for his care in violation of ICE's own directive and his unlawful deportation to Honduras interfered with his needed medical treatment. ICE doesn't give a fuck about that, right? These people are crazy. These people are a borderline Gestapo. They don't care about a kid with cancer. They don't care. The department, don't trust anything that comes out of the Department of Homeland Security. They are literally just straight up a propaganda organization at this point. ICE allegedly asked Rosario to sign a document without telling her what it was, and Rosario refused. Agents allegedly dismissed her pleas to speak with her attorney about Romero's condition. Her attorney then learned that the family had been transferred to a facility in Alexandria, Louisiana, 3 hours away. The attorney filed a stay of removal of Rosario's family that included evidence of Rosario's stage 4 cancer diagnosis. The family was boarded on a plane the next day. According to the lawsuit, Rosario explicitly opposed her U.S. citizen children deportation, and had never provided consent for such action. So, Rosario wanted both of her children, U.S. citizen children, to remain in the United States, and as they should, they're U.S. citizens. Like Rosario, Julia was also denied access to an attorney when she and her children were detained by ICE and deported. Okay? So guys, they are straight up ignoring due process. They are straight up ignoring their requests to talk to an attorney. They're straight up ignoring requests to have their children stay in the U.S. This is against the law. So these are further conditions in these ICE detention centers. According to Politico, judge orders ICE to stop forcing detainees to sleep on dirty concrete floors. Okay? And before we even read this, I just want to clarify, even if somebody is a criminal, and even if they are committing a crime that is so harmless as crossing an imaginary border, I do not think that that deserves us to treat them as subhuman. And that's kind of what's happening in these detention centers. They are not being treated fairly. They are being treated worse than U.S. prisoners. U.S. prisoners, what happens? They get their own bed. They get a change of clothes. They get 3 meals a day. They get medical attention. They can talk to their lawyer. They get phone calls. They get all that stuff, guys. So U.S. District Judge Louis Kaplan ordered officials by August 26 to provide more spacious accommodations that are equipped with bedding mat for each detainee held overnight, have hygiene supplies, and are cleaned thoroughly at least 3 times a day. They also ordered officials to allow detainees private phone calls with their lawyers within 24 hours. Like, why is that not happening already? That's part of due process. And yes, illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants, they get due process. There's many Supreme Court cases that say that. Just Google it. And to give them a printed notice of their rights within 1 hour of being placed in a holding room. They're not going to do this stuff because ICE and Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, and Donald Trump, they don't view these people as human beings. They don't. So why would we give them due process? Why would we give them rights? No. The notice should inform them that upon request that they will be given bottled water and 1 additional meal per day, beyond the 2 that are automatically provided to them. So like I said, they're not getting 3 meals a day, they're getting 2 meals a day. That's even worse than prisoners in the United States. So there's a lawsuit. A citizen of Peru who lives in New Jersey and his wife, 2 young children. According to court papers, Barco Mercado was detained by ICE on Friday after appearing in court date at the Manhattan building that houses immigration. Barco Mercado's lawsuit and said the detainees were given no access to medical care, showers, or change of clothes. At Tuesday's hearing, a lawyer for Barco Mercado told the judge that between 40 and 90 people are forced to share 1 or 2 toilets in open view of holding cells. Again, this is inhumane, right? Like there are people in America who have murdered multiple people, and they have more rights. They have better conditions than this. We have literal serial killers that are treated better than this. They are also being subjected to unsanitary and unsafe conditions, sleeping for days or weeks on a concrete floor with only an aluminum blanket, often with insufficient space to even lie down, often sleeping near toilets. Okay. George, I don't know how to say that, also said it was difficult to have a private phone conversation with her client while being detained. The phone call was limited to 1 or 2 minutes with a guard standing next to Barco Mercado who could hear a second person breathing audibly on the line. They also said detainees are given 2 essentially inedible meals a day. All right. Like I said, serial killers get better treatment than this. I'm told that it's 2 nutritious meals, but as far as the specifics, whether it's military meals, I don't have the specifics on that. Of course you don't. They're probably like MREs, right? The Trump administration notably contested few of the claims. Of course they did. Their lawyer conceded that access to medication was limited in person. Legal visits were impossible. Right, impossible. And detainees were given blankets but not sleeping mats. So he's admitting, yes, they do not actually all have individual beds, but they were given blankets. And basically they were not given access to their lawyer. So that's the Justice Department lawyer admitting that stuff, guys. During the hearing, Kaplan took aim at the distinction between what officials described as the ICE standards and what he was being told by detainees in court filings was occurring in practice. What about all these problems of what I'm told in the plaintiff's ed concerning? So they're apparently not getting soap, towels, toilet paper, oral hygiene products, feminine supplies. There seems to be quite a gap between the ICE standards and what's actually happening, including a 20-year-old, I gather, who was menstruating for 5 days and couldn't get any supplies. And what is most alarming to me, other than the clear racial profiling of Hispanics, is the conditions that these people are living in these detention centers. Okay, in these immigration prisons. And so this is according to NBC. This was 4 days ago. U.S. citizen detained by ICE in L.A. says she wasn't given water for 24 hours. Again, they are arresting U.S. citizens. They straight up are. If you think I'm lying, literally just Google ICE detains U.S. citizen, and it will pop up so many stories, so many news articles. This is just one example. I've covered many examples in the past. Okay. So, a U.S. citizen who was detained by immigration agents and accused of obstructing an arrest before her case was ultimately dismissed, and she said and is still traumatized by what happened. So, this is what ICE does, guys. This is what they do. They are abusing their power because they understand we can arrest anybody that's in this scene, in this little area that they are in. They can arrest people and just claim, right, they were obstructing an arrest or they were assaulting an officer. And it was ultimately dismissed. The Justice Department dismissed her case without prejudice. It did not immediately reply to a request for comment. Of course not. They don't want to admit that they're arresting U.S. citizens. That's when I asked him to show me his ID, his badge number. She said, I asked him if he had a warrant, and he said I didn't need to know any of that. The complaint said Velez arm hit the agent in the face. Velez denied any wrongdoing and insisted she was a U.S. citizen. She was taken to a detention center in downtown Los Angeles, where she gave officers her driver's license and her health insurance card, but she was still booked into jail. Again, this is going way out of ICE's jurisdiction. They cannot arrest and detain U.S. citizens. Unless, obviously, they are actually obstructing an arrest. Doesn't sound like she actually was, and that's why her case got dismissed. She said that she spent 2 days in the detention center where she had nothing to drink for 24 hours. Okay, again, this is very insane that they are arresting U.S. citizens and just claiming that they're obstructing arrests. It's like a cheat code. It's like a loophole, right? They can just lie and say they were getting in the way of an arrest, and they can arrest anybody. So, video of Lenez recorded of the arrest show an officer telling him a U.S. citizen who was born and raised in the country. Again, they are arresting and detaining U.S. citizens, guys. U.S. citizen was born and raised in the country. You got no rights here. You're an amigo, brother. It hurts me hearing them saying that I have no rights because I look, Hispanic. I'm Hispanic. Like I said in the past, guys, they are racially profiling Hispanics. The people being arrested were saying, we're not resisting, we're not committing any crime to you, run away, Leah said, recalling the arrest. Leah's phone continued recording after he was detained, capturing an exchange in which an officer tells another officer they're starting to resist more. We're going to end up shooting some of them. Let me say that again. An officer was telling an officer they're starting to resist more. We're going to end up shooting some of them. And I don't think we're that far from that, guys. Like, we're not that far from an ICE officer who has no body cam, right? It seems like they can do whatever they want, and they're going to end up just shooting these people and then claiming that they were running away, right? Or resisting, and being a violent resistor. So they can just start shooting these people. I don't think we're that far from it. I think you can be 18 now or 21, 18 or 21, with no degree, with no school, and they will hire you and they'll give you a $40,000 bonus. And they will also, if you do have student loan debt, they will forgive your student loan debt. So it's going to be easier than ever to join an ICE agent squad. All right. And it's all part of Stephen Miller's plan of arresting, I think it was 3,000 people a day, whether they're illegal or not. That is the quota. That is the number that they want, and unironically, that feeds right into their for-profit prisons.
Immigrant crackdowns contributed to the violent arrest of an American teen. CBS's Christian Benavides reports when the 18-year-old said he was a U.S. citizen, the response was, "You have no rights."
Wait, that's not how you arrest people.
This was the moment Border Patrol and Florida Highway Patrol officers detained a U.S. citizen while conducting immigration enforcement. Kenny Linez, an 18-year-old high school senior, was on his way to work as a landscaper with 2 other co-workers and his mother, who was driving.
I got rights to talk, bro.
You got no right here.
I do.
Illegal, brother. Get up. I was born and raised here.
As a U.S. citizen, you hear that from an authority figure. What goes through your heart?
I don't know, like, it hurts me hearing them saying that I have no rights here because I look like a, Hispanic.
The video comes as Florida will deputize more than 1,800 additional law enforcement officers to conduct immigration operations as part of a statewide crackdown.
No resiste, no resiste.
They were pulled over for having too many people sitting on the front seat of the car. 2 passengers were undocumented. Officers deployed a taser.
What am I doing? Hey, Kevin.
We're not resisting, we're not committing any crime to, run away.
Linez's phone keeps rolling after he is detained, capturing this exchange between the officers.
Starting to resist more now. We're gonna end up shooting somebody.
Just remember, you can spell that too, but it's every time down low.
Laws are just, they're no longer being respected. They're no longer being upheld.
Trump wants to use as much power as he can, and he's already used the Alien Enemies Act, right? Militarize ICE and the police, and now he's using the National Guard in LA and also now in DC, right? He's using all the power that he can, and so he's gonna just try to keep gaining more and more power. So how does he do that? I called this back in January. I said he's going to invade or attack Mexico, and maybe not directly Mexico. Maybe just he's gonna call it, I'm going after the cartel, right? The Mexican cartel. But it will be inside Mexico's borders, right? So he's going to do that. He's going to try to invade or attack the cartels so that he can then use the Alien Enemies Act to arrest any Hispanic that he wants. Doesn't matter if they're illegal or not, and then they have no rights because he can label them as a terrorist, right? And then he can send them to anywhere that he wants. He can send them to Guantanamo Bay if he wants. And I don't think Congress or the Senate can do anything about that. So that is, in my opinion, the next step. And there's already being talks of it. Okay, so this is according to the Rolling Stone a few days ago. Oh, this was literally yesterday. Team Trump is actually drawing up attack plans for Mexico. Okay, Trump is eager to breach Mexico's sovereignty to attack cartels, officials say. Just don't call it an invasion, right? Because if you call it an invasion, that brings the UN. Everybody has to get involved at that point. If you just call it like a strategic, precise strike or something like that, or an operation, you can get around calling it a straight-up invasion or a war, right? A new directive signed last week by President Donald Trump gives the Pentagon authorization to use military force against Latin American drug cartels designated as terrorist organizations, according to administrative sources. All right. Sources working close with Donald Trump's White House say that unless Mexico gives Trump what he wants, this administration is serious about attacking its neighbor to the south. This American president wants to violently breach Mexico's sovereignty when he feels like it. He, after all, effectively campaigned on doing so in 2024. I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, I went back in his campaign trail when he was literally running on, I want to use the Alien Enemies Act. You can't use the Alien Enemies Act unless you're at war with somebody, at war with another country, or you have labeled somebody a terrorist organization. And the last time it has been used was during World War II on Japanese people, right? And that is how they could legally imprison these people, Japanese people, in internment camps, was because we were at war with Japan during World War II, right? So he has to do something with Mexico or another, South American or Central American country so he can actually start using more power under the Alien Enemies Act. So this is interesting. Indeed, this seems less like negotiating tactic and more like a mafia-style intimidation campaign with the supposed goal of extorting the Mexican government into miraculously solving America's fentanyl crisis. What's funny is majority of fentanyl comes in through legal ports, not illegal ports, and not by illegal immigrants.